I have to be honest, when I first looked at the source material for this deep dive, I thought you were playing a prank on me.
I can see why.
You sent over a transcript of a conversation between Cenk Uygur, the founder of the Young Turks, the guy who basically invented online progressive news, and Tucker Carlson.
It definitely looks like a typo on paper.
Hmm.
You have the face of modern progressivism and the former king of conservative cable news sitting at the same table.
Right. And usually if you put those two in a room, you expect, I don't know, a cage match. You expect shouting, table flipping, all that performative outrage.
Yeah, exactly.
But I spent the morning reading through this, and it's disorienting. They aren't fighting, they're agreeing.
They're agreeing. And not just on small things. They're building what looks like a grand unified theory of American corruption.
It really is a world colliding moment, but I think if we look past the celebrity aspect, the premise they are operating on is actually quite chilling.
They are suggesting that the whole red versus blue team sport, the thing everyone spends all day arguing about on social media, is essentially a manufactured wrestling match.
An illusion.
Worse, a distraction.
Yeah.
Their argument is that while the public is busy fighting over cultural issues, the donor class is, well, looting the treasury.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack the mechanics of this theory, because we aren't just talking about vague corruption here.
No, not at all. We need to look at the specific machinery they describe. This divide and conquer strategy, the mathematical impossibility of the Israel lobby's influence, the media acting as a getaway car, and then some very dark rabbit holes regarding Jeffrey Epstein.
And we have to get to that analogy at the end, the one about the baby and the glasses. I don't think I'll ever be able to scrub that image from my brain, but it really does frame the whole discussion.
It's disturbing,
Yeah.
but it's the key. It's the key to understanding why they think the whole system is broken.
So let's start with the foundation. Cenk opens with this idea that the American elite have perfected a divide and conquer strategy. He compares it to the British Empire in India.
It's a historical standard for a reason. I mean, if you are a tiny ruling class, whether you're the British Raj or this modern donor class, and you want to control hundreds of millions of people, you can't fight them all.
No, it's physically impossible.
So you find the internal fault lines, you find the cracks that are already there.
In India, the British pitted Hindus against Muslims.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cenk's argument is that in the U.S. today, the establishment pits the woke against the Maggie, or, the rural working class against the urban working class. The goal isn't to solve these disputes.
No, the goal is to keep the energy focused horizontally at each other.
Right, so nobody looks up. Nobody looks vertically at the people actually holding the leash.
And the theft isn't metaphorical. That's what struck me in the notes. Cenk had this line that really landed for me. They aren't having debates, they're cashing checks. It makes politics sound less like governance and more like a transaction.
That is the core mechanic of their donor class theory. The source material highlights specific entities. Big Pharma, Big Oil, the military-industrial complex, and specifically AIPAC. The argument is that policy outcomes in Washington, they aren't decided by votes or public opinion, they're purchased products.
They use a specific example that really highlights how this works mechanically. Billy Towson. I remember the name from the news years ago, but I didn't know the whole backstory. This was about the Medicare drug bill, right?
This is the perfect case study for their theory.
Yeah.
Billy Towson was a congressman, a Democrat, who later switched sides. And he played a lead role in writing the Medicare Prescription Drug Act of 2003.
Right.
Now, that sounds like boring legislative soup, but buried in that bill was a specific clause. The U.S. government is legally banned from negotiating drug prices for Medicare.
Which is just wild when you think about it. Cenk pointed this out. If you go to buy a car or a house or literally anything else in a capitalist system, you negotiate. If you're buying in bulk, you get a discount. But here, the biggest buyer in the world, the U.S. government, is forbidden by law from asking for a better price.
Cenk calls it the biggest socialist communist program in history, but strictly for corporations. It guarantees profit by removing market forces. But here's the transaction part that proves the corruption.
Okay.
Immediately after that bill passes, locking in billions in extra profit for Big Pharma thousands. Billy Towson retires from Congress. And where does he go?
He didn't go retire to a golf course, I'm guessing?
No. He became the head lobbyist for FHRMA, the trade group for the pharmaceutical industry. His salary went from a congressman's wage to an estimated $2 million a year.
Wow, that's the cash the check moment. He delivered the product, the law banning negotiation, and he got his payout.
He got the job. And this introduces the metaphor that carries through the whole conversation. the getaway car.
I love this framing. So if the donors and the politicians are the bank robbers,
Then the mainstream media is the getaway car driver. Their job isn't to report the crime.
no, it's to create a distraction.
Their job is to rev the engine, honk the horn, and create enough smoke and noise that the witnesses don't realize the bank is empty until they're halfway down the highway.
They treat Billy Tausen's move as career advancement, not corruption. Because if they called it robbery, the passengers and the voters might actually riot.
Precisely. And once you see the media as the getaway driver, the next part of the conversation makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But fair warning, we are about to touch the third rail.
Yeah, segment 2, Israel. This was the most detailed and, intense part of the transcript. And we should be clear here for the listener. We are reporting on the specific arguments, statistics, and claims Cenk and Tucker presented. We aren't taking sides, but we need to explain why they think this is the ultimate example of the donor class at work.
Right. The central thesis they present is that American foreign policy has been completely decoupled from American interests due to, well, financial saturation. Cenk dropped a number that just stopped me in my tracks. 94%.
He said the Israel lobby contributes to 94% of Congress.
That's the statistic he cited.
Yeah.
He argues that when you have that level of financial coverage money flowing to almost every single representative, you don't have a representative democracy anymore. You have a captured legislature.
And the money flowing the other way is staggering. Adjusted for inflation, he said the U.S. has sent over $300 billion to Israel.
$300 billion, plus the recent packages, another $20 billion or so.
It's just incredible.
Cenk also brought up the civilian kill ratio argument regarding the conflict in Gaza. He claims the ratio is 83% civilian deaths, and he contrasted that with Hamas's ratio on October 7th, arguing that the IDF's operations are functioning, in his words, like a terrorist organization. But the broader point he was making was about the Mad Libs test.
The gaslighting detector.
Exactly, he says. Take these facts, the money, the influence, the lack of oversight, and just swap the word Israel with any other country.
Like Thailand or Bulgaria.
Right. Imagine if the headlines read, Government of Thailand funds 94% of U.S. Congress, or U.S., borrows money from China to give $300 billion to Bulgaria.
People would lose their minds. They'd call it insanity. They'd call it treason.
They'd ask, why is the U.S. government working for Bulgaria? But Cenk argues that because it's Israel, there is a firewall. If you point out the math or the money, you get hit with a very specific career-ending label. Anti-Semitic.
He was very careful about that distinction, wasn't he? He kept reiterating that this isn't about Jewish people, it's about a foreign government and its lobby.
He was explicit about that. He sees it as a civic issue. It's about taxpayers having a right to know where their money goes. He used the Larry Ellison story to show just how transactional this gets.
This story was wild. Larry Ellison, the Oracle founder, one of the richest men on earth.
So there was a leaked email. Ellison is writing to a high-ranking Israeli official. And he basically says, don't worry, I'm going to vet Marco Rubio for you.
He's vetting a U.S. senator for a foreign power.
Effectively. He implies he'll get Rubio on board with their agenda. Shortly after, Ellison donates millions to Rubio's super PAC. Fast forward, and Rubio, who later becomes Secretary of State, is pushing policies that align 100% with that donor's interest.
So Cenk breaks it down as an ROI calculation, return on investment.
Exactly. You put in $5 million in campaign donations.
And you get back a $21 billion aid package.
In the business world, that is the greatest trade of all time. It is incredibly cheap to buy American policy.
It's a vending machine. Insert cash, dispense foreign policy. But Cenk actually had a solution, didn't he? Not another dollar.
It's a pledge. He wants to mobilize voters to say, I will not vote for any politician, Democrat or Republican, who takes money from the lobby or votes to send more taxpayer cash overseas.
And he challenged the media to run a simple poll. Does America owe Israel any more money?
He's convinced the answer would be a resounding no, 80, maybe 90%. But his argument is that you'll never see that poll on CNN or in the New York Times.
Because they're driving the getaway car.
Exactly. They know the answer, and it contradicts the narrative they are paid to maintain. Which, leads us directly into Cenk's personal experience at MSNBC.
Yes, this part was fascinating. It really peels back the curtain on how the liberal media actually works behind the scenes.
You'd think MSNBC would love Cenk. He's loud, he's progressive, he goes after Republicans, and the numbers show the audience loved him.
He claims he was doubling the ratings of the regular hosts. He was the only show on the network beating Fox News and the younger demographic.
I mean, In TV land, he was winning the Super Bowl.
But he got called into the boss's office, Phil Griffin, the president of MSNBC at the time.
And this is the quote that gives away the game. Griffin doesn't say, your ratings are bad. He doesn't say, the advertisers are mad. He says, Washington is not happy with your tone.
Washington is not happy. Not the viewers. The people in power.
It's chilling. Cenk says he was told insiders don't like outsiders in leather jackets. It's a club, and he wasn't in it.
And they basically tried to bribe him to shut up. They offered him a demotion to a weekend slot, but with double his salary.
That's hush money.
No.
Here's a raise, now go sit in the corner and stop talking about the donors.
And when he refused.
They moved to phase 2.
Yeah.
Character assassination.
What?
If they can't buy you, they have to destroy your credibility.
The New York Times story he mentioned, I could not believe this was real until I looked it up. They accused him of supporting bestiality.
It sounds like a bad joke.
Right.
But yeah, he had made a sarcastic comment on a show mocking a weird situation involving a guy and a horse, clearly a joke.
Right.
The Times stripped the context and ran it as if he were seriously debating the merits of it.
That feels incredibly desperate.
It is, but it works. It signals to polite society that this person is untouchable. Cenk singled out Jake Tapper at CNN as the archetype of this mechanism. He calls him the enforcer.
So Tapper acts like a journalist.
But his real job, according to Cenk, is to police the boundaries of acceptable thought, to make sure no one questions the wars, the funding, or the donors too loudly.
And because the media ecosystem is so broken, we're seeing these really weird alliances. I honestly laughed when they started talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's a glitch in the matrix, isn't it? Cenk Uygur, the ultimate progressive, praising MTG.
But specifically on the issue of drug prices.
Right. Progressive Congressman Ro Khanna introduced a bill to lower drug prices. Establishment Democrats, the people who were supposed to support that, wouldn't touch it.
Why?
Because the donor said no.
But Marjorie Taylor Greene supported it.
Because she looked at it through an America First lens. She asked, why should Americans pay more than Europeans for the same pill? It proves Cenk's point. The real divide isn't left versus right. It's populist versus corporatist.
So sometimes the crazy right-winger is the only one making sense because she hasn't cashed the same check the moderate Democrat has.
It forces you to rethink who your friends really are in this system.
Okay, we have to go darker now. We've covered money, we've covered media, now we have to talk about blackmail. Segment 4, Jeffrey Epstein.
This was where the conversation shifted from political corruption to something more like state-sponsored intelligence operation.
We all know the standard Epstein story. Creepy rich guy, island, underage girls, famous friends. But Cenk and Tucker were pulling from reporting that suggests he wasn't just a pervert with a private jet.
They argue the evidence points to Epstein being an intelligence asset, specifically for Mossad Israeli intelligence.
And this isn't just vibes. They were pointing to his calendar and his movement history.
Think about it. He was a college dropout who taught math for a bit. Then suddenly he's a financier managing billions. He's setting up meetings between Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and getting sit-downs with Putin.
That doesn't add up.
Tank pointed out Epstein was even moving around during the Iran-Contra affair, switching planes. You don't do that unless you are deep in the spook world.
So the implication is that the sex trafficking wasn't the business?
It was the mechanism. It was a honey trap. Exactly. You get powerful Americans, politicians, scientists, CEOs compromised on tape. Then you own them. And who protects the operation? The U.S. government.
They brought up Bill Barr, the former attorney general.
This is a connection I hadn't made before, and it is very, very suspicious. Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, was the headmaster of the elite private school that gave Epstein his first job.
Without a degree.
Epstein didn't have a degree. Why did he get hired? Then 40 years later, the son, Bill Barr, is the attorney general when Epstein is arrested.
And Bill Barr is the one who rushes to declare Epstein's death a suicide and close the file before a real investigation could happen.
Cenk's argument is that this is a cleanup operation, just like with Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell.
A confirmed super spy for Israel.
He stole U.S. nuclear secrets, died mysteriously on a boat, and was given a state funeral in Israel. Cenk sees Epstein as just the next generation of that same operation. A massive blackmail engine running right under our noses.
And the U.S. government hides it. Cenk mentioned the JFK files and the 9/11 papers too. We're still redacting things decades later.
And who are we protecting? The redactions usually cover up the involvement of foreign intelligence, Israel, Saudi Arabia. It just begs the question, who is the U.S. government actually working for?
Right. If they are hiding the truth from us to protect them, Whose side are they on?
Which brings us to the grand finale, the analogy. Tucker called this amazing, and honestly, it ties the whole theory together. It explains the anger better than any policy paper could.
It's such a visceral image. Cenk asks you to imagine a scenario. You're at home, your wife comes in, and she's holding a baby. An orphaned, helpless little baby.
And you're a good person. Your instinct is to say, oh my God, we have to help.
Of course.
Exactly. Then, a man, let's call him the media, hands you a pair of glasses. He says, put these on, they'll help you see the baby clearly. You put them on, and the baby looks even cuter. You fall in love, you feed it, you give it your money, you protect it with your life.
But then, curiosity gets the better of you. Or maybe the glasses slip.
You take the glasses off, and reality crashes in. It's not a baby. It is a full-grown, hairy man sitting on your couch. He's eating your food, he's taking your wallet, and, this is the gross part Cenk emphasized, he's suckling on your wife.
Ugh, it's just disgusting, but let's decode it. The hairy man is...
The hairy man is the special interests, the donor class. The lobbyists, they are parasites. They are draining the household resources while contributing nothing.
And the glasses?
The glasses are the media. Their entire existence is to filter your vision so you see a victim or a strategic ally instead of a parasite. Oh, poor pharma needs money for research. Oh, poor ally needs defense funding. They distort reality so you don't fight back.
But the real sting, the real betrayal, is the wife.
The wife represents the politician.
And that's where the rage comes from.
Because the hairy man is just a thief. You expect the thief to steal.
Yeah.
The media guy is a liar. You expect him to lie. But the wife, the politicians are supposed to be in a marriage with the American voter. They vowed to protect the house.
Instead, they opened the door, invited the parasite in, and are actively helping him rob the family blind.
That reframes everything. It's not a policy disagreement. It's domestic infidelity. It's a betrayal of the highest order.
It explains why the populist movement is so intense right now. If you believe that analogy is true, you don't want to just vote harder, you want a divorce.
And that's the synthesis here. Lester right, Cenk and Tucker are saying that the people are finally taking off the glasses.
And the donor class is terrified. That's why the censorship is ramping up. That's why the smears are getting nastier.
They know that once you see the hairy man on the couch, you can never unsee him.
Cenk calls what come the next Operation Consequences.
It sounds messy, but it also sounds like the first time in decades that two opposing sides have identified the same enemy.
So that's the thought we want to leave you with today. We all wear glasses of some kind, lenses given to us by our favorite news channels, our social media feeds, our political tribes.
If the media and the politicians are the glasses and the wife, ask yourself, are you brave enough to take the glasses off?
And if you do, are you ready to face what's actually sitting on your couch?
And more importantly, what are you going to do about it?
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Keep questioning the narrative, and we'll see you next time.